Am I the a-hole for telling my friend that my intimacy life has nothing to do with her? My friend Olivia, 25F, has been living at the home of my partner, 30M, and I, 26F, for about a week. Edit. Made a mistake there, actually a few weeks, as she has had some financial problems and was evicted from her own home. That's fine, she cleans up after herself, she's respectful of house rules, etc. Anyway, she pulled me aside a couple days ago and asked me if I'm really dating my partner, or if we're just pretending. I asked her what put that in her head and she said that he and I never do couple-wide things like kissing or PDA or etc. She also brought up the fact that we don't share a bedroom and asked if everything was okay in our intimacy life. I am as cool, and so is my partner. My friend is not aware of this as I have not come out to anyone about this, but still. It's a weird question to ask, is it not? Also, it's ludicrous to me that she went to the conclusion of my partner and I being in a fake relationship. I said everything was fine and it's really none of her business. She dropped it, but then yesterday she brought it up again, saying she was concerned because I seemed quite defensive and snappy when she brought up my intimacy life in the prior conversation. I'm not always aware of my tone of voice. I have alexithymia and autism, so I'm not very good at reading/recognizing emotions in myself, so I could well have come across as defensive without realizing, but I don't know. She then went on, saying she wanted to continue the conversation and asking if I was waiting till marriage? And whether or not my religion was forcing that. I am Jewish, as she noticed I didn't seem happy about discussing it with her the last time she tried to, so it might be a difficult topic for me. I said that she was correct. I didn't want to talk about it with her because, again, it's none of her business, so I would appreciate it if she stopped trying to. I also explained that I'm not an Orthodox Jew, so premarital intimacy isn't really a problem, at least within the community of Jews I live in. She told me I was being rude when she was just looking out for me and the least I could do was appreciate her support. She has been a victim of Christian purity culture, so I understand she was trying to help her to make sure I was okay, but I don't appreciate her still trying to talk to me about it after I told her I didn't want to. Am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for leaving my ex homeless? My ex and I are 29 years old and had been dating since we were in high school. We were in the midst of planning our wedding up until 2 weeks ago when I found out she was having an affair. One day when my ex was out, I noticed her dad had been spamming her with messages that showed up on her Apple Watch. I got curious, wondering if something might have been wrong, so I decided to check the messages, and that's when I realized it wasn't her dad. The messages were full of some guy expressing how excited he was to hook up with her later that night. She had named the guy she was cheating on me with dad on her watch in order to hide suspicion, and he had just blown her cover with his excitement. Before she got home, I decided to hide the watch, and when she got back she began searching for it, asking me if I'd seen it, to which I responded cluelessly, telling her I hadn't seen it all day and assumed she took it with her. I then purposely started becoming distant and she noticed. She started panicking, texting her best friend, telling her all about how she lost her watch and how I've been acting distant. She was worried I might have found out about her affair. Her best friend had the decency to message me later on in the day, warning me that my ex was having an affair and that she'd be confessing to me in a few weeks. I told her that I already knew because I had her watch and I was watching the messages roll in. I also told her that I would be getting my revenge by the end of the month. Her friend said if I needed someone to lean on, she was always there and that she'd be willing to help me execute my revenge. A few weeks went by and our apartment lease was finally up, so I started packing everything. I also took all my money from our shared account. I woke up early the next day to throw all my stuff in my car and waited for her to get home so she could confess about her affair. When she did, I nodded and left without saying a word. As she was chasing after me asking where I was going, I said nothing and hopped into my car, getting ready to drive myself over to my brother's for the night. I woke up today to multiple messages and voicemails about why rent wasn't paid and why there was someone telling her she needed to leave. She had also decided to message my family, telling them all that she's homeless because of me, and called me an a-hole. Nearly all my siblings and father agreed that she deserved what I did except for my sister and my mother. They also called me an a-hole for leaving her stranded and for taking half the money out of the account, but the only thing I took was the money I made. They said I should have tried to work things, and my mother even messaged me privately telling me that my fiancée was starting to have thoughts of ending her life, and that if I didn't take her back then she was going to disown me and cut me out of the will. I told her my ex was no longer my problem, and if she really was homeless then she could go live with that guy she destroyed our 13-year relationship for. Am I the a-hole for ditching this cheater? Am I the a-hole for wanting to go to a club with no ugly beaches? I can't believe AITA come to DC for a couple weeks of education, culture, and fun. The museums and food are fantastic. But the city is so miserable and grim, everyone is so exhausting to look at, so I try my chances at a club. Nobody is dressed hot, and everyone has uneven lips and fat shoulders that broaden their face and long torsos and dry elbows with nary a clue that they look like that. The fact that I saw Chelsea boots on a woman who I presume is college educated and aware it is the year 2023, a woman who was wearing stone-washed boot-cut high-rise jeans as well, like some sort of time traveler with her notes mixed up, made me so profoundly distressed that I had to go back to my hotel and rest. Additionally, I have never been in a club where people are so grimly determined to look like they're having fun. Where is the sprezzatura? Must you all look so pained? So, on the next weekend I try to find a club for beautiful people that also play good house music. I was feeling depressed, and that always makes me feel better. I get both in abundance in my city, and DC is large, wealthy, and educated. It cannot be that difficult. I have no friends here, none of my college friends even are the type to live in such a place, and now I understand why. As such, Instagram is useless in finding answers for that, and too many of you butter-faced freaks are on Twitter. So, I turned to Reddit. Surely there's hot people, maybe even hot men, that use this site once in a while and can give me a good answer, but no. I get rude and ungrateful ugly people mouthing me off. And the ones that did give me legitimate advice were hounded for doing so. Is this how a city of what I thought were the well-educated, well-mannered class of the United States treats its visitors? Are you unable to look in the mirror and realize that this city is full of genetically unfortunate people apparently too poor to buy beauty, including most of yourselves? Even gently botched plastic surgery suggests an attempt was made to try, and that counts in my books. There's nothing inherently wrong with being ugly or unfashionable, but be honest about it, humble yourselves in the presence of the gifted, and provide more spaces for attractive people to hang out and have a good time in places that make them feel good about being beautiful. Not to mention, you all look in the mirror and feel good? I would never leave my house if I looked like half of you. There's no demand for self-improvement and discipline, and no culture that emphasizes beauty as a goal for its own sake. A lack of vision for hot people will eventually end your city. I regret coming here, and I cannot believe that I spent the money to do as such. Good riddance. Am I wrong for calling my coworker a creep after he asked about my husband's genitals and our sex life? My 37F husband, 37M, Vincent, is paraplegic and has been since he was in a car crash when we were 14. If it's at all relevant, we've been best friends since we were 9. He, of course, uses a wheelchair and, by now, is pretty used to either awkward looks or, usually, innocent questions about what happened, if he can feel anything, etc. This morning/early afternoon, my work had a little party thing for us all to celebrate because it's the anniversary of the veterinary hospital I work at. It was a barbecue picnic thing at a local park for everyone who works there and their families. I've worked there for about 10 years and know everyone there quite well, as does Vincent, so we were pretty happy to have a nice lunch. Miles, late 20 SM, is the new receptionist at the clinic. He's been here since February, or maybe March, not long, anyway, while the other 9 people who work here have been here at least 2 years or so each. Miles generally seems like a nice guy, but he can be pretty nosy at times. In general, that doesn't really bother me. Everyone has their quirks. Today was the first time Vincent and Miles met. Miles had a lot of nosy questions for Vincent. For example, what happened? Can you really not feel anything below your waist? Was it hard finding an apartment around here? Is there an abrupt line where you can feel everything and then nothing? Or is there part of your body where you can kind of feel something but not completely, like when your foot is asleep? And so on. It was a bit weird for Vincent, as it usually is, but he's pretty good-natured about answering questions like that, even when the person asking has a lot of them. Now, multiple times during the conversation, Vincent and some of my coworkers tried to change the topic. Miles would usually play along for a bit but would have another question whenever there was a lull in the conversation. At one point, Miles asked Vincent, "So, how does that work in the bedroom? Can you get, you know?" Now, obviously, it's weird and uncomfortable to have a person you don't know well ask about your sex life, but Vincent is also incredibly sensitive about it, and his feelings about himself because of the way our sex life is as a result of his paraplegia is something he as long as struggles with. For the record, I absolutely love our sex life, but still, he feels bad about himself. I immediately said, "Miles, do you have to be such a creep?" Miles then got upset and told me that I was being an off for leaping to that. Then Vincent and I left pretty shortly after. Vincent, for the record, was very thankful for what I said, and one of our coworkers texted me to say that he understood where I was coming from but thought I was probably being too mean too fast. Am I wrong?